Diablo 4 launch, and it's a great time.
Have a great time.
But it's a honeymoon phase of the game. And these issues people are already encountering, and these are very important issues. For some reason, there's a very divisive view on everything from the casuals and then the super no-lifers that no-life the game over the weekend because they bought the early access version. But the thing is, the no-lifer comments and concerns, you need to worry about them, because the only difference is the no-lifers just got to the point a little earlier than you. So imagine there's 40 hours of gameplay in the game, right? So the people that no-life those 40 hours, they got to the mark at 40 hours where, hey, here are the issues I'm seeing, here are the problems, and you know that's just because I've got to this point in the game where the story's over, now I'm farming, I'm doing the end game stuff, and the people that are taking it slow, the super casuals, like they're at the 10-hour mark, right? The 25% completion part of the game. So they don't see these issues. But the issues at the 40-hour mark aren't going to go away because you're taking the game slow. The same issues are going to be there. The NPCs that are on the opposite sides of towns, they're still going to be on the opposite sides of towns. The friction of the game is still going to be there. Like, the mob density isn't going to get better because you're taking the game slower. These are issues that are going to be there. So it baffles me when you go on Reddit and you see people that post valid criticism, and then the people are like, oh man, you no-life the game. Imagine blowing through the game just to have nothing to do. You're gonna get there too. You're gonna get to the point where there's nothing to do. And then you got this other group who are basically just bragging of how they like to get fucked in the ass, and you should be happy that you even fucking got this game. Like, bro, what the fuck is happening? Leave your kinks in the bedroom. And it's the way these ARPGs work. I'm not saying it's a brand new genre. I'm not saying these are issues that are unique to Diablo 4. But as you get to later parts of an ARPG, the upgrades, they happen less and less. You're farming for like 1% upgrades over the course of exponential hours. Like that first 1% at endgame that you get that increase your power might take you about 2 hours to farm because, you know, you're farming for Paragon levels. And then eventually it'll take you 10 hours to get a 1% upgrade. And then it'll take you 100 hours to get a 1% upgrade for your character. And that's the way these things go. You know, at the beginning, you're blasting every level, you're getting skill points all the way up to 50. You know, you feel your character getting stronger. But these things, you know, that's not a fundamental problem. So what are its core systems? So once you blast through the story, the level 50 all the way to level 100 experience does not change. Your world tier 3 and tier 4, exact same thing. So you have either whispers that you go through, you have hell ties that you can do that spawn randomly, and then you have nightmare dungeons, which are basically endless rifts. You go through it, you get a greater rift key. It's literally greater rifts. So you go through it, you get the rift key, and then you upgrade a gem glyph at the end, glyph, and you just progress through it over and over again, and you get keys for the next tier that can possibly drop, or you can just craft these keys, which is really nice. Diablo 4 actually launched with a pretty comprehensive endgame system, one in this ARPG genre that you do not actually get on launch day. Think back on Diablo 3's launch, you did not get a plethora of grinding options. You actually went back to story, like you go to Act 4 and you farm there. Same thing with like all the other old ARPGs. Hell, even in Diablo 2 to this day, you go back to old acts and basically just farm old acts over and over again. Last Epoch, it's still not out yet, but you know, during its early stages, didn't have all these features. Path of Exile didn't have all these features. Heck, if you look at like any game on its launch, this is probably one of the best launch pieces, this product, or whatever you're calling this, and it's pretty good. It's pretty good, but it plays it pretty safe, and I don't mind that. You know, it's offered as a live service game, so right off the bat, you know there's gonna be updates and stuff. So optimism, hopium, all time fucking so high, mad potential for the game. So let's talk about this race to 100. So the first 1,000 people that make it to level 100 in hardcore, They get their name etched on a statue 1,000 miles away. They'll probably never see in their life, you know, unless they post the screenshots on Instagram somewhere that you can just check and be like, hey, I was there. You know, it's such a smudge reward, and you know, people actually want it. And props to them, and props to the world first Hangout world first 100 hardcore. The world first like group got there very quickly. There's one unsung hero that, you know, the community's rooting for. The one guy who's leveling solo, who's not abusing group gameplay. You know, I say abuse, but, you know, this is just clever use of game mechanics, right? You know, all exploits that aren't patched just means Blizzard wants you to do them, right? Right? Because if you're not punished for these exploits, you know, as they say, exploit early and often, boys. So of course everyone's gonna root for the guy who's basically solo leveling throughout the whole experience. And you know, what a fantastic feat. He made it minutes before the official launch, before the servers were gonna go to shit. Whereas as the freaking subreddit are calling, the plebeians are finally blasting through the gates. And the race was over before the race even started, if that makes any sense. So imagine this, you show up the race day, you look at the finish line, it's across the river, you know, it's a big path, and it circles around the river, and there's the finish line over there. There are people running through it already. In groups of 4, they're running through the finish line. And then there's that one guy running by himself, and he's throwing twisting blades, and it's spinning around him. It's yeah, good on him, he made it. It's a rough feeling. And the fact that Blizzard was able to sell basically what is a 5-day subscription for $20 blows my mind. I can't believe they got away with it. And the rest of the bonuses in that deluxe version, or whatever version with the early access, it's for a battle pass that's not even out yet. So it's a reward that's promised way down the line. So Blizzard single-handedly managed to sell a 5-day subscription and a future credit to a battle pass. Crazy. And you know what? I fell for it because I'm a sucker, and so are most of you. But the fact that there were 3 nerfs before the game even hit live goes to show that there is some problems with the way the game is being balanced. So a lot of these items were addressed during beta. The gloves for Whirlwind being way too strong. Nothing was done until live. So the people that got the gloves early, they're just blasting through. They're able to basically one-shot bosses, and they got an advantage for leveling. And you know, it kind of sucks for everyone else, because everyone else did not get that experience. They didn't get to use the item at its full potential. The shout ring for Barbs, same thing. I think Barbs got a total of like 5 to 6 different nerfs in total compared to all these other classes. But the people that, you know, jumped on day one, you know, for leveling their Barb and getting these items, they were able to enjoy a very overpowered version of War 1 Barbarian that a lot of people didn't get to. And I think if you're not up to date on these patch notes, and you're trying to, you know, live the glory days, or you watch the YouTube video, it's gonna feel really bad when you finally build that character. And not everyone's going to know that, hey, these items got nerfed, even though it's in the Blizzard client. You know, some people, they log in and they just play. They don't want to read a billion patch notes before they jump into the game. You know, that's like the hardcore players, and they're gonna get the shout ring, and they're gonna shout, and they're gonna wonder, hey, why do I have such a long cooldown for my shouts? Or hey, why do these gloves basically do nothing? Like they're really weak right now compared to what they were, but that's fine because it was super broken before. Whatever, we're moving on. Twisting Blades got nerfed. It's just they're nerfing characters based on how fast they're progressing through the hardcore race. So I think it's like, if you're not playing those classes, then you're kind of like whatever. But you gotta kind of imagine it from their shoes, right? They're like, okay, I found something, it's super good, I'm gonna use it. But they're fixing things live during a race. But yeah, let's fix those things and leave the bug where you can't use your abilities, and the bug where you take infinite poison damage until you die in hardcore, by the way. Yeah, let's leave those in, I guess. Oh, Cash Shop wasn't working well. Let's just take down the whole server and, you know, make everyone relog at the same exact time during launch. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, let's do that. Later in the game, people realize that, hey, it's really expensive to enchant stuff. It's really expensive. For some people, they have millions of gold because they're being very frugal about enchanting. They're not just enchanting every single new piece of gear that they get with a slight upgrade. They're looking for very specific pieces, or they're just taking their sacred items all the way to 100, you know. And you know, that's fair. It's warranted, but it does kind of suck for people that do miss Helltide events and they don't have the mats. But it is endgame, you know. It takes a bit to get there. These aren't things that should be available right away. But it absolutely is going to take a lot of resources for very minimal taps. And a one way around it is, instead of dismantling everything, you can just vendor it to the armor vendor, and you get a lot more gold. If gold is like your primary issue. But for a lot of people, I think it's like the Helltide materials, because they don't have time to play when Helltides are around. So a lot of people don't like the generator gameplay, and what that means is you have one ability where you spend your resources and it deals a lot of damage. But in order to use that ability again, you have to smack the mob with a generator ability to get your resources back. This is something very basic that you do throughout the game. It's a concept that's introduced to you at the very beginning. You have your basic skill, and you have your core skills. Basic make resource go up, core skill use resource, they go down, you know? It's just the way it works. You gotta really go an arm and a leg to get your resource up. But some of these endgame builds, you know, eventually they get around it and they have some sort of cooldown reduction or resource generation that kind of balances out. For a majority of people, it just feels really bad, because you're coming from Path of Exile, where you just have one ability that you spam and it feels really good. ARPGs, like, a lot of people want to feel that explosion. I guess play devil's advocate. If you like those types of experiences, there's Diablo 3, there's Path of Exile, they're over there. You know, I don't know. This is Diablo 4. It's its own product, right? So yeah, I just hate the generate resource, spend resource class design that Blizzard's been going in. If you play World of Warcraft, you know exactly what I mean. Every single class is homogenized down to this aspect. You build a resource of some type, then you dump your resource to do damage, and then you build it again. And I think that's pretty boring. I think there could be very unique designs for ARPG class designs. Like there could be very, very interesting concepts that are being pitched, you know. There could be very unique playstyles. But regarding generators, I think the problem is a lot of the generators just do almost no damage. If they did some form of damage, maybe like half as much damage, or even like 60-70% of the damage as your spender, that'd be fine. I think a lot of people just don't want to whack them off for 50 damage, only for your other skill to do 300,000 damage. It just feels really bad. It just feels bad. But the mob density is also something to talk about. In the overworld, the mob density, there's just a pack of regular mobs over here, there's a pack of regular mobs over here. This one might have 5, this one might have 20. In dungeons, it's like these packs, and there's no way to increase quantity of pack size. There's nothing you could really do. Whatever the game gives you, that's like the pack size that you get. And in ARPGs, you're trying to go zoom. You want to fight the mobs, you want to fight a big cluster, right? But too much makes you feel like you're playing a Musou game, like Dynasty Warriors, and too little, it's like you're just getting into one-on-one street fights with trash mobs. And that doesn't feel good. So maybe they're thinking about it. Maybe there's some way to change it, but the density, it feels a little lackluster at times. And sometimes you get a big pack of mobs, and if you're playing Whirlwind Barb, you just cleave through it. If you're playing some other of these classes with not that much AoE, you're just gonna struggle. Like, fight for your life. Fight for your right to party! The story has been great. Like, going through the story, you get some really good cutscenes. Almost like everything is voiced, which is really nice. You get really immersed in the world. And, you know, these are some very climactic acts near the end. You get some really, really cool boss fights. And that's, at the end of the day, the core formula for an RPG, right? You go through the story, but you just go through it once, and then you sit a majority of your time at endgame. Come, you know, a couple weeks, you're not even gonna remember these characters. You're gonna be like, who? Lore who?
She had horns like a beast.
Horns like a beast.
Where you stand.
You know, these are gonna be characters you're not even gonna remember who these characters are, because you're going to be doing nightmare dungeons for the 50 billionth time. I'm pretty sure some of these people that hit level 100, like they don't even remember that they did a story. I joked to my friends when I say, hey, why does it feel like Diablo 4 came out a month ago? And it was a day after I just had like a 14-hour session of Diablo 4. It just feels like so long ago, even though the game wasn't even out at the time, and it feels like the game came out months ago. That could be personal wear and tear, you know, it could be personal burnout, but it gives off that feeling that, hey, you're doing this, it's just the same thing from here on out. And you know, some variation, you know, you can force yourself to create these variations. You can go from nightmare dungeon to world grinding or whatever. You know, that's break it up, you know, take it at your own pace. Just, you know, I think majority of people need to realize that a lot of the people that complain about the game actually enjoy your game and want to make the game better. You know, it's way better than just someone going, hey, I like the game, does anybody else like the game? No shit, we all fucking like the game, that's why we're playing it. At least a lot of the criticism that comes out is just, you know, it's more useful than like, oh, game hasn't been out yet, it's only a week. Like it's a weird meta of complainers and people complaining about complainers. It's weird, man. It's total weird. I do have to say, the level scaling that I thought would be an issue is not an issue, because you scale way harder than the world. You know, as for each level, mobs get like, you know, stronger or whatever, and they level with you. But if you're playing a build that's, you know, not total jank, in a good way, you know, your build is going to scale in power level as you get Paragon points. Like, these boards have some of the most insane powers. Like, every time you kill mobs, you get 1.5 second cooldown reduction, or you just do X amount of damage, or just applying vulnerable on every new mob that you hit. These are some of the most powerful systems. The Paragon system has so much player power in it. People don't realize like that you're gonna scale way harder than these mobs, and it's super smooth that for every single Diablo game you just get less and less classes. And what if someone doesn't like the 5 classes at launch? Break out the emergency class, sell that Crusader, sell that Amazon. You know, yes, there was a class in Diablo 2 called the Amazon, and she threw javelins, and that shit was dope. And we don't get that. We get less and less classes. I can't wait for Diablo 6 to have just one class. Like, the game just ships with one class. You get Barbarian, that's it. And then maybe day 4 they sell you the Rogue and Sorc. You know what? Let's picture this. Let's picture what Diablo 5 will look like. Okay, on release, you get one class. And there's a super duper boner edition where you can play the game a year ahead. But you pay like $300. Okay, let's see. Endgame grinding. It's a rift. Okay, let's think about this. And the mobs scale with you, and if you kill mobs faster, they get much stronger, much faster. Ooh, and now you get 2 space bars.